Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Dynamics 365 Tech Talk. Today's topic is business performance analytics. We're broadcasting this session through Teams Town Hall. This session is being recorded on behalf of the Microsoft Corporation. When you join this event, your name and email address may be viewable by the session organizers. By joining, you're agreeing to this experience. If you do not consent to be a part of the recorded session, please disconnect your line at this time. The recording will be made available in the TechTalk Community Dynamics page within 5 business days. If you have questions for the presenters or need support, please use the Q&A panel located on the right side of your screen. If you wish your name not to be visible to the organizers or session participants, please post your questions anonymously. We will be responding to your questions throughout the session and in live segment at the end of the presentation. Thank you for your patience during these announcements. Presenting for us today from Microsoft, we have Jinnie Wong, Principal Product Manager, Yaswant Vishwakarma, Principal Project Manager, Saurabh Bharati, Senior FastTrack Solution Architect, and myself, Veselina Eneva, Senior FastTrack Solution Architect. The agenda for today will be as listed on the screen. We're going through again a little bit overview of the BPA positioning, what's new and enhancement capabilities are. We'll walk you through the data model update, out of the box and extended financial reports, how to use MCP with BPA, a little bit about cost and licensing, and how to stay in touch with us and additional resources, and we'll finish with the Q&A. And on that note, Jinnie, over to you.
Thank you, Veselina. So today we want to talk about BPA and really why it matters. So business performance analytics was designed to solve a very specific problem. It's the analytical gap that exists in a general ERP system and analytical needs that exist in every company. Dynamics 365 Finance is an exceptional transactional system. It records what happened, but it was never really designed to answer the question of how is my business performing. Getting that answer typically requires expensive data warehouse projects or custom integrations and weeks of maybe wait time. BPA closes that gap because it sits natively on an app, right? And it transforms our raw transactional data into optimized data sets using a star schema method. And this is all without you having to build anything. The way we've designed it is very deliberate. So instead of building a generic model that just answers specific questions in specific modules, we design analytics by business processes. And then we group those processes into value chains. So as you see on the screen, we start off with Microsoft Fabric and Dataverse, which is where the data sits. We look at all the modules that are sitting on top of it and the business processes those modules will create. And then on top of that, you see how we've grouped those business processes into value chains. So for example, I give you record to report. The record to report value chain contains the general ledger and the budget transactions currently. Procure-to-Pay would have anything from your purchase orders to invoices to payments, right? So record to report, procure to pay, order to cash, and acquire to retire. Each one of these, the first 4 is already part of the model today, is a discrete and they're well-structured semantic models that understand the business processes within that value chain. So the output of all of this is governed and secured within BPA. We have a new level of governance within business performance analytics that you can set both at the role level as well as at the dimensional level. So you're now able to create your own another layer of security within BPA. Now, on top of that, purpose-built analytics through Power BI and Excel is available, as well as AI-powered insights, and we'll be talking about that later in this session. And all of this is drawing from one trusted and consistent semantic layer. You can go to the next slide. And we'll talk about what is BPA exactly. So it's an analytics solution built directly onto Dynamics 365 Finance. So we use D365 F&O, right, as our base model. You can get started without an add-on purchase today. You don't need a separate license. If you're on D365 Finance, you have access to it. It runs on Microsoft Power Platform and Dataverse, and its job is to take the raw transactional data from your ERP and transform it into optimized analytical data sets. In its current release, BPA covers 4 core value chain. Like I mentioned earlier, you have record to report, which is your GL and your budget, procure to pay, purchase orders, vendor management, order to cash is sales orders, invoicing, and receivables. And it's an fixed assets, which is, acquired to dispose, which is your fixed assets and leasing. A few key facts worth noting. Like I mentioned, it's included in your D365 Finance at no extra cost. It does require a Tier 2 environment and a minimum version of D365 Finance 10.3.38, 10.0.38. Currently, data refreshes twice daily on 12-hour intervals, but we have a release coming up in June this year where we'll go up to 6 refreshes daily. And the initial release today is in English, right, in US only. We'll be moving towards other globalization languages later this year or early next year. To get it running, it's relatively straightforward. There are 6 installation phases. You start with your prerequisites and privileges, and we'll have links for you to get started with that. Also, keep in mind, if you go into F&O today, you'll see the Business Performance Analytics button that you can just click on, and it'll take you directly to the Learn documents that will outline these phases for you. You start off with prerequisites and privileges and set those up. You go through your Power Platform and Entra configuration. Then you do your D365 Finance configuration. The actual installation of BPA will happen in the Power Platform. And then once you have installed BPA, then you would lock down security and user access and be able to start using it. It's a structured process, but it is very well documented. And we're happy to walk through each phase with you. So for this, I think I'm going to be turning this over to Yashwant for the roadmap and what's new.
Thanks, Jinnie. So, Jinnie just presented what BPA is all about, right? Like how we actually go ahead and organize and provide or build multiple capabilities within BPA, right? So, one of the functionalities like building value chains, other functionalities like how frequently can we go ahead and refresh data within BPA. Apart from that, there are security related features like when we are talking about, right? So when this is financial reporting, so we want to make sure your data is secure. So on the roadmap here, right, what we did is earlier in Jan, we published a BPA MCP server. Saurabh is going to talk about that a little bit more in depth a little later in the session today. Along with version 2.6, which was released in January 26 earlier this year, we also made a bunch of transform optimizations at the ETL core engine itself. Starting version 2.7, now BPA, right? So BPA is a managed application for reporting. So when it's managed application, it natively uses Power BI embedded for serving the reports. One of the functionality we released along with 2.7, this is in private preview right now, is the ability to create custom measures using Power BI desktop. I will talk about this a little bit more in a few minutes. We are also actually going ahead and releasing data model enhancements. So acquire to dispose model is was also released along with 2.7. And we have also increased the Power BI semantic model Power BI embedded capacity from 100 GB to 200 GB, which means if your FNO database or your source database is approximately 500 GB in size, we'll be able to go ahead and support this. We are investing heavily in improving the scale support, which means we'll be able to go ahead and support up to 5 terabyte of database in near future. Then, along with VPA 2.8, we are going to make more platform level enhancement and optimization. Now, what exactly this means? So, like I mentioned, right, we are going to go ahead and invest in scale in order to achieve that scale and improve more reliability transformations. We are going to do a bunch of changes at the platform level. At the platform level, some of these changes will roll out silently, which means only you will see a release note coming out, but no other impact to your BPA application at all. We are also planning financial tax support. This will be released along with version 2.9 towards the end of May. Now, as Jinnie mentioned, frequent data refresh. BPA currently supports only 2 refreshes per day. These are scheduled around central midnight time and then in the afternoon time, right? Based on CET time zone. With more frequent data refresh, you will be able to go ahead and specify when your scheduled jobs will start, when your first scheduled job will start. Once the first scheduled job is kicked off, the second one will actually go ahead and work based on the occurrence of the first one. We are also going to increase the number of refreshes. So from 2 to 6 is what we are aiming for, and this will be within the production environment. So let's say VP also supports sandbox deployment, where you can go ahead and try BPA just to experiment with the reports and make sure that your data is getting reported correctly. The frequent data refresh capability, we are aiming it to release it for production environments only. There is one more reliability improvement we are doing. So as Jenny mentioned here, right? So we were talking about BPA installation is very easy. All you need to do is just go ahead and locate the app in Power Platform Admin Center and click the install button and you're good to go. In order to make the install experience even more smooth, we are actually implementing something called as tables in the lake, which will be released in June 2020, June later this year. Now, towards the end of this year, again, talking about the scale capability, so we are going to go ahead and implement something called as progressive loading capability. This functionality will actually help us load the most recent year worth of financial transactions as soon as possible. So if we want to actually go ahead and let's say bring 3 years worth of financial data for reporting, we will go ahead and load the most recent data first so that you can actually start generating your reports out of it. And then subsequently, in the background, we will go ahead and load the previous year's worth of data. Now, one of the functionality of BPA is, right, you have to install BPA today, right? And one of the constant feedback which is coming up is, right, hey, install takes a little bit of time. So what we are going to do is we are going to make BPA installed by default in all FNO environment, which means if you have a FNO installation, BPA will be available for you. Now, this has 2 different parts of it, right? One is the install experience. So we will actually take care of installation, which means we will also take care of upgrades. The second one is activation. When you go ahead and activate, you will be having functionality or control over the data flows, which actually pulls and ingests data within the managed data lake environment. You will turn on the flows and the data will start ingesting, which means you have a good control in your BPA environment. There are a couple of other functionalities which we are actively discussing is one, ability to go ahead and create a custom column within BPA environment. Now, BPA current semantic model, it's a managed semantic model, which means as BPA team owners, based on your feedback, we decide what data model to release, what column attributes to pull into the dimensions and facts. Later this year, sometime, we will be actually going ahead and adding a capability of bringing custom column support, which means if there was a specific column which we did not pull it within the data model, you'll be able to go ahead and select it and we'll automatically merge it within the semantic model we have. As part of the scale activity, we are exploring something called as directly. It's a fabric feature. BPA is a big data analytic product, so this particular fabric feature will actually help us, scale data beyond 5 terabytes within BPA environment. We will be also doing a lot of investment in the reporting hub monitoring, which means everything you do within a BPA environment, you'll be able to go ahead and monitor it. When was my last time data refreshed? When is the next refresh scheduled? When I'm looking into my fact tables, how many row counts are there? What's the latest transaction data available? Like these kind of monitoring enhancements will be there. And I talked about the install experience, right? So install by default is also on the roadmap. If you have any questions related to the roadmap, feel free to ask on the chat here. We'll be able to go ahead and respond. Veselina, next slide. Yes. So I was talking about version 2.7, right? There are 2 functionalities which we have released as part of 2.7. Now, there is something called as Power BI visual calculation. So if you have actually worked with a Power BI report, you go ahead and create a visual, let's say a table or a metrics control or a chart control, right? Sometimes you feel like there is a calculation required, for example, a running total. With Power BI visuals, what you can do is you can go ahead and create a calculation which is only supported or available as part of that particular visual. So I need a running total of a specific number. I will be able to go ahead and create something called as a visual calculation. This functionality is a native functionality of Power BI Embedded. It is in preview within the database environment, so you'll be able to go ahead and try this out. This functionality, because it is in preview, it has limited support and it will just keep on increasing, and the functionalities will keep on enhancing depending upon what Power BI teams releases. These visual calculations, because they are slightly restricted in nature and they are only part of the visual, you will not be able to share it with your team members. So what we are doing is we are implementing, and we have already released a functionality called as creating custom meshes within BPA. Veselina, next slide, please. So custom measures. If you install version 2.7, you will get this functionality called as creating custom measure. There are a certain amount of prerequisites in order to create custom measures. First, once BPA is installed, you also need Power BI desktop environment. If you're familiar with Power BI, if you're familiar with Power BI desktop, this functionality will be very, very easy for you to go ahead and work with. Now, BPA, it's a secured environment, right? BPA, we actually have various roles to control who can access the reports, who can create the reports. Ability to create a custom measure is a functionality. We are releasing it only for admin users to give you a better control around who is able to create the custom measures and publish it on. When you install BPA, what we also do is we provide a functionality to go ahead and download the semantic models, the Power BI semantic model, so that you can look into what are the tables and fact tables we have included within the semantic model. So in order to use custom meshes, the first step will be you will be downloading the semantic model, opening the semantic model in Power BI desktop, going ahead and adding your custom meshes after changing necessary parameters, like for example, connecting it to your CDS environment. Once you have created your custom measure, there is a native functionality of Power BI. We call it as tabular model definition or Power BI project files. You will simply export your changes or the custom measures in form of a tabular model or a Power BI project file. You will see a functionality within BPA. You can go ahead and simply upload it. Once you upload the custom measure, we will actually make it part of the managed semantic model, and your measure is good to go. Once we merge it with the semantic model, and let's say you are an admin user who has gone ahead and created a bunch of my custom measures, you can share it with the rest of your team members. Your team members will natively say they will be able to very easily use the custom measure which was created by your admin, and they will be able to use it within their reports. So this functionality is in preview. If you are interested in signing up for this functionality, please feel free to reach out to us. We will actually go ahead and enable it. If you already have BP installed and you are in any of the stations around S1, S2, or S3, you will be able to see this functionality and play with it. Veselina, next slide. Okay, so with this, I'm going to transition it back to Jinnie. Jinnie will talk about what are the various value chain currently supported within BPA.
Thank you, Yaswant. So this slide gives you visibility into the full scope of what BPA models are available, and also what's currently on the roadmap. I want to point out these business processes you see here are representative of the types of business processes we consider when modeling. So they're not necessarily indicative of what the actual facts and dimensions are, right? So this one just provides you with a little bit more detail. Each card you see here represents a value chain, and within the value chain, you see every individual business process we consider when building the semantic model. One thing to consider also is that these value chains will conform or will have joins within the value chain. That means every business process will have joins within the value chain, but also across value chains where it's relevant, right? So, for example, acquire to dispose posts into the general ledger. It also posts into Procure-to-Pay. Right, so then you will see that there are joins between acquire to dispose and procure to pay, and acquire to dispose and general ledger. The green ticks here show what's currently modeled in the BPA semantic model today, and the empty boxes are processes we've mapped, but we are still in the process of modeling, and so they have not been released. You'll notice that acquire to dispose, order to cash, procure to pay, and record to report are fully modeled for now. Every process in those value chains has coverage. The remaining value chains have partial coverage, which means we're starting to write those models. and they will be released later this year. The goal for us this year is to complete all these models and anything else that we get as feedback from you, and make sure that those are available to you. We do have some limitations that we are working through that prevent us from releasing all these models instantly. But as we walk through those, and we'll talk about those especially in a bit, they will be released. This model is a lot richer and more nuanced than just a process list, right? So it gives you a really clear picture of the scope and intent. So as you look at this, just think of this as a coverage map. It shows you where BPA adds value today and gives you the confidence that the broader value chain thinking is already built into the design. And the ultimate goal of what we were trying to we are looking to achieve here is to provide you with a base model out of F&O so that you can also then build your extension models and your warehouses on top of it, and you don't have to maintain this model out of F&O. All right, I'm going to go ahead and transition to the next slide and hand this over to Veselina.
Thank you, Jinnie. So Jinnie walked you through what's on our roadmap in terms of our processes and value chain. So let's go back and see what's available as of today. So you can see here on the screen all the standard out-of-the-box reports inside the BPA. Few things to point out. All 15 reports are marked in the BPA application with Microsoft type, which means that they're read-only and managed by Microsoft. You cannot edit, rename, or delete them. All of these 15 reports are Power BI reports. They open directly in the browser within the BPA application. So if you'd like to customize one of these reports to change the layout, add a column, adjust the visual, the process is just to duplicate the report first, which creates a custom type copy, and then make changes to the duplicate. The original Microsoft report remains unlocked. Record to report is the largest value chain in the BPA, at least for now. Let me call out a few of the standard out-of-the-box reports. So the balance sheet, this is the structure is driven directly by your account categories that are set in Dynamics 365 Finance. So it reflects your chart of accounts. So if the account categories are not set up correctly in F&O, the balance sheet in BPA will not look right on this level. So this is very good to be flagged. So budget versus actual is one of the most commonly used reports. It compares planned budget to actuals, as budget holders can immediately see what they're tracking over or under. This requires that budget register entries exist in Dynamics 365 Finance. Financial performance, this is the most comprehensive R2R report. It has revenue, expense, net income, and cash flow parts in one view. And it's great for executive level reporting. Trial balance, of course, is the favorite report for every accountant, and it's a standard step in any month-end process. Geo-dimensions details and transaction details are the drill down, and also the audit pillars. Use them to investigate individual transactions or to analyze spending by different financial dimensions. The documentation report, I'll talk in details in one of the next slides. Procure-to-Pay reports cover everything from purchase order to the vendor payments. And these are 5 reports in this value chain at the moment. Purchase order will give you full visibility of open and closed purchase orders, dates, suppliers, items, quantities, goods for procurement oversight, and spend analysis. Vendor aging is one of the most practically used reports. It shows outstanding vendor invoices grouped by age. At the moment, we cover 30, 60, 90 days bucket. Vendor invoices, summary of all received vendor invoices with dates, amounts, and payment status. And vendor payments shows, of course, payments made by vendors with links back to the original invoices. And the transaction details is the most granular P2P report with complete view of all vendor activities. In order to cache, currently, and again, depending on which station regions you are in, you can see the standard 2 out-of-the-box reports, with more being added incrementally by the product team. together with very soon you're going to see acquired to retire reports in your BPA installations. Sales aging provides outstanding customer invoice by age. This is the AR equivalent of the vendor aging on the P2P side. The sales transaction details, it's complete view on the sales activities, the same we had on the purchasing side. Now, how to navigate these reports once you open them. So the three key tools are shown here on the maybe a little bit small screenshot on your screen. So you have a different slicers. This is essentially filters that controls directly your report page, and you can use them to filter by legal entity, fiscal year, period, and other dimensions instantly. The filter pane, you can click on the filter icon on the right side of the report for a deeper set of filter options, and a drill in, which I put here as a note. When you hover over any table, you can reveal the drill down icon on the corner. And when you select it, you'll navigate through the hierarchy, for example, from year to quarter to month, or from accounting category to account and so on. So all these are standard Power BI interactions. So user already familiar with Power BI will be immediately comfortable with that. Coming back to the documentation report, because it's a little bit overlooked and maybe not completely understood, so I wanted to bring your attention to this. This is quite different from all the other reports. So unlike the financial report, this one is not for analytical transaction, but it's a built-in reference tool for understanding the BPA data model itself. So the documentation report ships with BPN and it's updated with almost every single release. It's particularly valuable for technical architects, consultants, and anyone who builds custom reports on top of the BPA. It has 3 tabs: bus matrix, table mappings, and measures glossary. So the bus matrix tabs gives you a high-level overview of the entire BPA data model. This is your standard point when scoping a custom report. Before you start building, you just check the bus matrix to confirm the data that you need is actually modeled in BPA. It's also excellent actually for onboarding. The table mapping tab is the most detailed of the 3. It maps every BPA analytical column name to its source in Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations as a table and column name. So you can filter by value chain, by fact, by dimension type. And this is invaluable when you investigate the data discrepancies. For example, if the number in BPA report does not match what you see in the 365, this is where you trace the lineage back to the source. It's also essential for custom reports for developer that needs to extend the BPA semantic model or build custom measures. They need to know exactly which source fields are available. And not on the last place, the measures glossary is a catalog of every pre-built calculated measure in BPA semantic model. Things like net revenue, total vendor payments, days payable, and so on. So before building custom measure in Power BI, check this tab first. The measure you need may already exist, and using the pre-built version ensures consistency across reports. In addition to the 15 out-of-the-box Power BI reports we just covered, BPA also supports a second report type. This is Excel. So this gives the finance team a way to work with BPA data in a tool almost every finance person knows very well. So the key point here is that Excel reports expose the exact same BPA semantic model that powers the Power BI report. So there is no data gap, no exports, no stale spreadsheets. So the finance team who already live in Excel, controllers, FP&A analysis, can use pivot tables, pivot charts directly on top of the BPA data. So one often overlooked benefit is that the row level security is still enforced. How to create an Excel? Just go to the reports in BPA, click New, select Excel as a report type, give it a name, and click Create. As simple as that. The first time you do this, you'll be prompted to install the BPA Excel add-in. I recorded a short walkthrough later on. You can see what's popping up on the screen, but this is just one-time step and installs automatically. The report then downloads as an Excel file, open it, sign in with your BPA credentials. I'd like to point out to this. And you land on the blank pivot table that connects the full BPA datasets. From there on, it's just standard Excel pivot table, drag and drop fields, slicers, create charts, and so on. So when you're done, save it back to BPA or locally. And just a tip that you see here on the screen, do not rename the file before you open it for the first time. The file name contains a unique ID at the end, which is quite long, but just go with it. That links it is to your BPA datasets. You can rename it after the first open, but yeah, not before that. And just to call out a couple of use cases that you can use this for the month-end close, for example, finance team often wants to apply custom geo groupings that don't exist in the out-of-the-box reports, or for the management packs, if your stakeholders expect a particular Excel layout with specific formatting, you can build that once and share it so everyone will get their data in the required formatting. There are few prerequisites for that. So it works with Excel desktop only. Excel Online and Excel for Mac are not supported, at least not for the moment. And also check with your organization's Office update policy because it needs to be on the current channel. So happy to get more questions if you'd like in the Q&A panel. This slide, brings a real-world example of how you can actually easily customize a report. So you can see how one of our customers wanted to bring more information on top of the BPA vendor invoice reports, but found it does not give them the initial information they needed for AP reconciliation. So the vendor invoice report is actually a very good one, providing good summary, invoice numbers, dates, amount, and so on, but it stops there. So it does not show them the voucher accounting lines that they were created. So for this reason, the solution was just to combine the two models. So what I started is I copied the vendor invoice and then I created the links. And I provide you here on the screen of how I used and dragged in the main account and the business unit, department, and cost center that they wanted to. So it just combines the two data model areas, the vendor invoice header data for date, amount, status, and the reference to the vendor voucher accounting lines, which carries the main account and the relevant dimensions, as you can see here on the screen. With the next part, I wanted to show you on one hand how you can use a custom Excel report, but also how you can reconcile data and how you can use MCP, for which Saurabh will talk you from a little bit more deep technical perspective later. So after any product installation and deployment, the same as BPA, the first question the finance team will always ask, can I trust the data? So the trial balance reconciliation is just not our approach, but it's like in finance industry, this is the standard for validating your data integrity. So the reconciliation gives every finance user confidence that BPA reports are based on the complete, accurate data that coming from F&O. So here we are validating not just the data transfer, but also the transformation logic that applies during the BPA implementation. And what we try to do with these exercises, here is a screenshot of the trial balance for the GBSI controls company for 2025 in BPA. And on the next screenshot is the same trial balance, but coming from FNO. So what was our reconciliation methodology that we wanted to do? We deliberately used two independent methods to validate the data. So on one hand, we're confirming the numbers, but on the other, we're showing you different methods, so it's how you can use and analyze the data. So the first approach using the automated MCP agent is just fully automated, use the AI-powered model context protocol agents and pulls the data directly via APIs from both BPN and FNO, then compares the balance in real time without any manual handling. And as an outcome, it can create an Excel, Word, or PowerPoint output, the same as you see here, one of the slides created. In parallel, we also perform a traditional Excel-based reconciliation. It creates a BPA trial balance in Excel, as explained earlier, and it also exported the trial balance directly from finance and operations. Then you can perform side-by-side comparison, account by account. So this method for the finance team, it's very familiar with and allows visual inspections and confirms that what users see in BPN aligns exactly with FNO. So on this slide, I wanted to zoom in on what exactly we reconciled and how using the automated MCP-based approach, we reconciled only one legal entity across a full 2025, covering all accounts with balances and movements. The reconciliation assistant agent compared the opening balances, total debits, credits, closing balances directly through the embedded MPI. In total, we validated that 465K debit and credit movements with zero manual handling. It gives us some comparison, and it provides us as an output even more analysis data, which from a timing perspective, I'm not going to go through. And here, I'll show you, I recorded my step, creating first an agent. As you know, an agent, first you need to give it a name. You choose the model you're going to use. It is very important to add your instructions, like I explained everything. In this case, I chose two tools, is the D365 MCP and BPA MCP model. And then I said, export the balance first from the BPA environment. So it started to do debits. The video here, it's 2 minutes and a bit. In reality, it took me just less than 5 minutes, just from a perspective to show you how quickly everything that was set. So once the trial balance from BPA was exported, I can continue analysis to present it in a Word format, in an Excel format, in a table as requested here, and that's done. So I check the numbers, I can copy this, I can go back and continue. So you see here the debits and the total credits as a summary. So then I went and said, okay, now I need to do exactly the same, but let's do and just provide the link to your FNO environment. Of course, you see here on the top of the screen that this is the environment finance, the one that both BPA and FNO are linked to. So I'm applying absolutely the same. Please do the same and extract the trial balance from FNO this time. And you can see and goes and finds exactly the tables, the links, and it provides us then reconciliation summary between all of them. Now, yes. Even though it says that the data are identical, I said, please go compare them both, do some analysis, give me the results in a table that I can use afterwards. You can ask here, of course, many more questions. You can group them by category. You can say only particular type of accounts to be provided. This is just an example. And as you can see in our case, it's a perfect match. The number of accounts that were compared, the currency conversion, the table with everything that is matched is a little bit smaller here, but you can get the gist. You can just export it to Excel or Word or whatever other tool you'd like to use. And then I'll show you quickly the same on the Excel side. As I said, you just create an Excel report. This is the screen you're going to get just once. And then you open it in Excel. I just drag and drop and create it through my connection with BPA pivot table. For the first time, you can just copy exactly, and this is what I show you here for your easiness, just exactly the same dimensions, facts, filters as they were in the standard BPA report. So then on the FNO side, you can either use the standard add-on connector or export trial balance from export button. And then you can just use a Excel standard move sheet to the other workbook, which I did. And voila, both of them are here. Now you can use either standard Excel capabilities, or I wanted again to have some automation. Hence, I thought, okay, let's use the finance agents. And for that reason, I see that they're quite different. So first, I need to do some data preparation. First, I copied the BPA table in a separate one. Then I saw that actually in my row labels from the pivot table, both the account and name and in one column. So I separated them. This is just with me text explaining to the agent what needs to do. Then it was the credit. I changed it from minus, as in BPA, to an absolute number. And there we go, I have the BPA table prepared. And then I started to use the finance reconciliation agent, where you can either choose what column suggested by it, or in my case, I applied a little bit different mapping between the BPA prepared table and the FNO one. You click the button reconcile data, and voila, you have a FNO reconciled, and you see you have two lines that are unmatched, and this is on our reporting currency. The difference, because on the FNO side, we have the reporting columns as well. And on the BPA, as you can see, I only have the accounting currency. So it picked it correctly. Everything on the BPA side matches, and then you can have a summary report. So this is in a very speedy, concise way to show you the standard reports, custom reports, Excel generation, and how you can easily compare the data or do analysis without even any comparisons once you trust your data in BPA, which you should. And on that note, I'm going to hand over to Saurabh to give you a little bit more details about how MCP is used with BPA. Saurabh, over to you.
Thank you, Veselina. So before I dive in, a quick expectation setter that we ran a dedicated tech talk on ERP analytics MCP back in February, which goes much deeper into demos and other things. So I would strongly recommend watching that recording. So now let's look at how this BPA is becoming agentic. So looking at this slide, this is a big picture. BPA is no longer just a reporting tool. It is the analytical foundation for three core different modes of intelligence. So you're doing self-service analysis in Excel and Power BI, which Veselina was talking about. Then you have Copilot assisted analysis through the M365 Copilot analyst agent, and the fully autonomous analysis through LLM reasoning and the code execution. The ERP Analytics MCP server is the layer that enables all three to access your BPA dimension models. So record to report, procure to pay, order to cash, and all the way down to the raw Dynamics 365 transactions, which you have it. Now, before we talk about specifically BPA MCP, if you go next slide, we will talk about the different MCP servers which are available within the Dynamics 365. So next slide, Veselina. So there are two distinct MCP servers in D365 ecosystem, and it's important to be clear on the difference because I see customer mix these up. The D365 ERP MCP is about acting. It lets agents trigger business logic, follow standardized processes, and interact with the application layer in finance and operation. So think of it as the do things server. The ERP Analytics MCP is about understanding. It taps into the pre-structured analytical data in BPA to uncover insights and measure performance trend. Think of it as the understanding thing server. So both are built for the agents running on Copilot Studio, and both connects to Dynamics 365. But one access data and business logic, the other assists the analytics. Knowing which one to reach for depends on whether your agent needs to take action or generate the insight. Now, talking about the analytic BPA MCP, what tools are available today? So if you go to the next slide, Veshlina. So the Analytics MCP server ships with two tools today, and honestly, two is all you need to get started. The first is get BPA dataset schema. This is how the agent understands your data. It retrieves the full schema of your BPA dimensions models, table, column, measure in the relationship. The agent calls this first to understand the structure of your data before trying to query it. The second is execute DEX query. This is how the agent gets answer. It execute DEX queries against your BPA data, and critically, it enforce raw level security automatically. The agent only returns the data the authenticated user is permitted to see. So no exceptions, no workarounds. These two tools work in sequence, understand the schema, then query it. That is the entire analytical engine under the hood. So if you go the next one, next slide. So how do you combine these two MCPs together and bring it a more powerful business case for your business, right? So now this is where it gets really interesting, where from an agentic workflow perspective, combining both servers together. The analytics MCP does not have to work in isolation. Where you pair it with the ERP MCP, you unlock two powerful patterns. The first is insight to action. The agent explores BPA data to identify an issue. Let's say an example vendor with underperforming on-time deliveries, and then triggers a corrective action directly in finance and operation through MCP. So identify and act in one workflow. The other example, in action informed by insight. The agent starts with an operational task like processing a purchase requisition, but before completing it, it checks the vendor performance data through the BPA MCP to make a smarter decision. This combination is where real enterprise value sits. It is not just reporting; it is closed loop decision making. Now, to do this, what are the different types of prompts you would have with you can use is the next slide if you move to. So what can you actually ask? So this slide gives you 6 different categories to anchor your thinking. Aggregation and summaries. So what were total sales by region last quarter? Trend analysis. Show me revenue trends over 12 months. Comparative analysis. Top and bottom performance. Who are my top 10 customers by the revenue? Anomaly detections, and the complex calculation, like for example, calculate inventory turnover ratio by the product category. The key point is the agent first calls the schema tool to understand your data model, and then executes the DEX query based on the queries you are using here, and returns the structured result. So user writes in a plain English, the agent handles all the technical complexity it's supposed to do that. Now, if you go to the next one, we have given some examples here for you to start with. So when you are trying out the BPA MCP or ERP MCP together, these are certain examples which you can use for your financial analysis, so for P&L trend, budget variance, top expense categories, for vendor analysis, on-time delivery performance, payment cycle times, highest return rates, for customer analysis, the top customers by revenue. So all these are the different examples of the prompts which you can use when you are starting with the both ERP MCP plus the BPA MCP together. So every single one of these is a question that today required someone to build a report or pull and export, and with the analytics MCP, your finance controller or operation manager asks it directly and gets the answer in few seconds. And this is what moving from scheduling. Scheduled reporting is always on. The question-driven analytics actually looks like in a practice. Now, with all these things, when you're playing around with the BPA MCP, you have to have certain considerations. There are certain limitations which we have today, so that you need to be aware. So the BPA dependency, so your data is only as current as your last BPA refresh, which is currently the twice a daily, but it's going to be more frequent now in the coming future. On the model selection, so we recommend to use the Cloud Sonnet, 4. Opus 4.5 to get a better results and and also to get the more efficient result from the agent. And on the agent instruction, write these in a plain natural language, the what agents should do and how, and be very explicit about that. On a performance limits, there is a 120 seconds maximum query execution time, approximately 10 MB data return per query. So design around these, use aggregations, break complex analysis into steps, and always specify a time window so that you are considering these performance limitation we have it today. On prompt design, be specific about your time period because of the same thing which I just now mentioned, and use a structured prompt for complex analysis. Iterate the first prompt is really the best one, so you have to keep iterate that one. On the security, always verify users' permission and test with the role-based access before going live. The role-level security enforcement is automatic, but your BPA role needs to be configured correctly first. So these are the certain considerations when you start using the BPA MCP analytics MCP when you play around. If you talk about what's there in the roadmap, so currently we are in public preview right now. The two tools I have described are available with the integration into Copilot Studio and Visual Studio right now. Coming soon is the granular schema retrieval for better context management, the ability to create and update dashboard directly from natural language descriptions, create and update measures on the fly and save them for the future use, native integration into the BPA application itself, and M365 Copilot and agent integration. So that's in the roadmap which we are having. So the direction is clear. This is becoming progressively more embedded into the tools your users already work in every day. And yes, so my ask is that if you are on BPA already, go start Copilot Studio Pilot with this particular version, which we have already in the public preview. Now, with that, so that was about the BPA MCP, which we have, but let's talk about the overall BPA. which is including with the no additional license you require. I was looking at the chat. There were a couple of questions at what license is required. So the BPA is available for you without any separate license. So if you have got a Dynamics 365 Finance license, you have all covered here what is listed here. And you are also going to have the frequency, which is going to be increased, which is twice a day today, but it is going to be increased in the near future. With that, if we go to the next slide, which is about, I think, the resources. So there are different resources which are available today. There are some, there is a tech talk, and there are also the Dynamics Bytes, which are available, which gives you a very good start to try this BPA entire functionality, and also how to build your reports using the BPA and the Dynamics 365. So if you go to the next one, we have that. And then also we have different community channels. So you can connect on the Viva Engage and also on the LinkedIn FastTrack community page. And with that, we conclude today's topic. And we do have a survey link, which we are going to post in the Q&A. So please do provide your feedback on today's Tech Talk. And we are on time, but I think we can take few minutes, Veselina, right, to answer a few of the questions if they are pending in the Q&A.
Yes. Jinnie, Yaswant, if you'd like to pick only one or two of the questions that are not answered yet, maybe.
So I think there's one question right now. This is when will other languages be supported? So we did answer this one. So languages are going to be supported. We're going to, our plan is to support all languages currently supported by FNO. So I believe there's learned documentation on that. And the plans are to bring that on later on this year or early next year. And also just a quick reminder that the extensibility scenario, which is I know there's a lot of questions around Fabric and the ability to use Fabric. There's some great documentation out there. Also, please visit our Viva Engage page. I believe the QR code was shared. That's also another great place where we have learning documents on how, on best practices around extending the BPA data model into Fabric and using it there, as well as extending other sources of data into Fabric and joining with BPA data. All of that's available on our Viva Engage page.
And I would also like to add, right, if you want to have a follow-up conversation, you can always connect with us every Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific time through BPA office hours. Or you can always directly reach out to any of us here on the call.
Thank you. And we're on top of the hour, and I'd like to thank everyone who joined today's presentation on BPA. We're looking forward to continue working with you. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.